Hello, my name is Skate Duck, and I am a competitive player for Gundam Evolution. I'm currently on a team right now. We're practicing for a lot of the upcoming tournaments, and yeah, that's a little bit about me. And today I'm going to be talking to you all about the new balance changes. Now, this was all announced on the 21st, but I've needed a few days to, A, live my life, and B, really wrap my head around some of these changes and where they're coming from as developers. So, let's get into it. So, this is going to be going on the 26th. Which is tomorrow. This is going to be hopefully coming out on the 25th, or maybe it'll be coming out on the 26th. Who knows? Ooh. But the preface, during the maintenance, they want to, of course, make balance changes based off of what their players are telling them, as well as they have put an emphasis on balancing based off of the data, which I feel like is one way to balance, but I don't think it's going to necessarily give them the best possible game, if that makes sense, because like, the data might say that melee is a little bit too strong. But the data might also just miss the fact that his ultimate is super duper powerful and that it essentially just wins you points. So that's, I think, one example where, the data might say, oh, he's a little bit too strong, let's just bring him back a little bit. It's like, well, actually, his ultimate is the biggest issue. So I think the data and looking at win rates only doesn't really give you a full picture of what's actually happening in your game. So they want to change Exia and Zaku to melee. They have higher than expected win rates. Cool. Thanks for the obviousness. They want to increase the sustainability of ranged units when they are in battle, which essentially means give everybody a little bit more ammo, which is fine. So this is probably one of the biggest changes is Pale Riders. His Hades was doing too much damage. I think the idea is not his damage buffing ultimate does too much damage. It's more he has his ultimate too often. Because you could get it pretty much every other fight or every single fight, depending on how big that intern poke stage is. So it makes sense to be making it a little bit less often. Going from 7,800 to 9,200 damage in order to get it makes total sense. You just get it less often. Awesome. The EMP grenade, it sucks, I'll be honest. I've played a lot of Pale Rider. The EMP grenade is like a freak accident when you do hit it. And my biggest use of the EMP grenade is when I hear either a Barbatos charging or I hear an Exia charging up their stun. What you do is you then predict where they're going to end up, and then you throw your EMP grenade to then when they dash in, they're now slowed, and it gives you a much better chance of actually killing them. That's really the biggest use of EMP grenade, and maybe if I'm fleeing from somebody, I'll turn around, throw it in a doorway where I'm fleeing through, and then just keep on booking it. I don't know, the EMP grenade just feels a little bit weak right now. I think the biggest change would not actually be this. I think, this is definitely one way to address it, but I think the throw animation and the arc is the biggest issue. It's underhand and it goes about 3 feet. So if they were to give it the same arc as the grenade that he has, I think that would be good. I know it would probably be really annoying, and I'm already thinking of some ways that you could use as a little bit of a broken thing. But still, his EMP grenade, it doesn't get thrown far enough, and it can really only be used as a defensive measure. And in this game, you don't really have a lot of defensive measures because you sort of just die when you're on the defense. So, EMP grenade, bit of a weird change. Gundam, 1 more bullet. Awesome. Cool. You have to reload less often. You can hit more headshots. I don't know. I don't feel like that's a massive change. Gives him more sustainability. Sazabi. A lot of numbers changed here, but I think how this is going to implement itself is it's going to make Sazabi stronger in those midterm sort of fighting stages, where both teams, let's say we're fighting over B on, let's say R&D, Mountain R&D. You're fighting over B and you're in that poke where you've just both now come down your ramps and you're just poking at each other as your characters are getting ready to dive each other. That's going to make Sazabi's shotgun a little bit stronger because the spread is going to be the exact same, apparently. But the damage fall off is going to be longer. So if you're now this far away, I can still hit you with a little bit more damage. So it makes him stronger in those sorts of poking situations. But it makes him a little bit weaker when he is right up in your face, which most of the time Sazabi is going to be winning the fight anyway, because that's really the only engagement where he has a massive power advantage. Methis, 2 more bullets. Methis is already super duper strong, so giving him 2 more bullets just makes him stronger. Okay, cool. I don't feel like that's gonna break him or really move him around in anything really. Sniper, 1 more bullet. I don't see why this change is needed. Most of the time when you're playing sniper, you're maybe taking three shots and then repositioning. So and in that reposition, you have more than enough time to get a reload off. So really, I don't see why he needs another bullet. I don't know. Okay. Ashamar. This is kind of awesome. I like it. I'm a big Ashamar player. Anyways. You can now shoot 11 bursts before you have to reload, as opposed to 9 bursts. That's pretty nice. And that's going to really have a big effect on Ashamar. When you shoot as Ashamar, it goes... It doesn't go 3 bullets all at once. And so with that slight delay, it impedes your tracking, because you now have to track your first bullet, which is going to be hit scan. And then your next 2 bullets are still going to be hit scan, but they're going to be slightly behind where you're tracking. If I'm moving my crosshair and trying to keep it on them, my first bullet's going to hit, but then my next 2 are possibly going to be behind that target. So you sort of have to do a little bit of predictive tracking in that. And so, this is just going to give you a little bit more of those bursts that you can actually hit, hopefully. Dom Trooper, don't really see why he needs this. 7 felt like it was more than enough. 8 is now more than enough. And so, I guess it might stop you from reloading in some really bad situations. Turn A Gundam, 2 more shots. Turn A is already pretty good in a lot of situations. Doesn't have the most team, doesn't give you a lot of team abilities outside of the ultimate. But, Turn A Gundam is still useful because they can make themselves survive with their, nano skin. And their throw's pretty useful against some of those dive characters. Because if you're able to get your throw off on the dive characters, or you can just bust a Sazabi over your shoulder, those are some of the really good uses for that. As well as in 1v1s, it does a good job. GM, another big change. So they were finding that GM's shield was breaking faster than Sazabi's, which makes sense. But I think that this change doesn't address GM's shield being weaker, because I feel like his shield should be weaker than Sazabi's, because Sazabi's shield is sort of a big part of him as a character. And I think what they're trying to address here is the fact that GM's shield was getting melted at a range where he couldn't fight back, or he had bad damage fall off on that range of engagement where they were just peppering down his shield. So now what they've done is they've given him his beam spray gun, great name, a little bit more range. So hopefully if a Pale Rider is melting your shield from across the map, you can now fight back against them and, maybe get them to not melt down your shield as fast, even though they'll do it anyways. And just, AD strafe so you can't shoot him that well. Detonator bomb, you throw it a little bit faster, 10% faster. This is going to feel better as GM players. For all of you out there who are still playing GM, good for you. We appreciate you. His C4 is really strong in some situations. In other situations, it's useless. But most of the time, it's really good for zoning, and I think it throwing out faster is just going to make GM a more fun character, as well as, bring that molasses throw speed up to something that's actually useful. Exia, they've totally missed the mark on this one. Totally missed the mark on this one. The cooldown is a problem. Yes, the 50 damage I don't think was the biggest issue. The biggest issue is the stun. I think the movement, the push around isn't as bad because you can adjust really quick if you're if you're on your toes, you get pushed away, you can then reposition really, really fast and get yourself back into a good spot. But it's really the stun is the issue here, because you get stunned, and then Exia has really pretty simple follow-up on that with the spin sword move, and plus with the shuriken. It's just Exia can have really easy follow-up based off of that stun, and a lot of characters have stuns in their kits, and I don't think Exia is one of those who really needs a stun in their kit. That's it. That's as fast as I can go through that. Marisai, once again, addressing a part of the problem, but not the whole problem. This is definitely going to become a theme as I'm looking at Mahiru's next. So, Marasai, Sea Snake and Snare. Try saying that 10 times fast. It does come out way too fast at 7,500 units, but now it's coming out at 5,000 units, which is 2/3 as fast, which is good, because before it would just come out and you'd be like, oh, I'm hooked. Nice, I'm dead. This is awesome. I think this is a good change. The only big issue with this is that they've missed every other part of Marasai's kit. Marasai's not overpowered. He's just a little bit BS to fight, if you know what I mean. The fact that his hook, when he hits it, he can one-shot you solo. That's my biggest issue. If I'm in a 1v1 with Marasai and I get hooked, I should now be at a big disadvantage in that 1v1. I get it. But what he shouldn't be able to do is land a hook and then solo kill me. I get it. If I get hooked in a team fight, I should die. But there should be other follow-up that kills me than just a solo Marasai. Marasai shouldn't be able to be in the middle of Timbuktu, land a hook, and then solo my Sazabi. That's just, like, the fact that he can win any 1v1 off the basis of a hook is just a little bit BS. Because it forces you to play when you're baiting out hooks, and against any good Marasai, you're more than likely dead if they hit their hook. Well, any Marasai, you're dead if they hit their hook. And any good Marasai is going to be hitting a lot of hooks. So that's the biggest issue, is that he can one-shot you just off of one hook. So that's the bigger issue. Mahiru. Mahiru is bad. Hot take. Mahiru is hot garbage, except for 2 places in the whole game: the corner on Harbor and Flak Fort. Flak Fort, generally, a lot of spam. But outside of that, Mahiru is awful. You only have 3 grenades. You can't even kill a 1,000 HP unit. If you hit all 3, not to mention hitting those are weird, because it's not intuitive to hit those grenades. And, you know, it's awful. The flip kick, thanks for the extra second off the cooldown, but no one is complaining about not having enough kick flips. Nobody is complaining about the fact that they can't use their stun that often. People don't like the fact that his stun essentially makes an 800 HP character stand still and just die. If you use it in a mildly unideal situation, you immediately die. The only time you can really use his torpedo shield with internal mega particle cannon, what a mouthful, is when you're predicting somebody rounding a corner. So essentially, they're walking towards you, I prep the stun on the wall, then they immediately round the corner into my stun. That's the only real safe time to use this. Outside of that, if you stand still, a good sniper will pick you off. A good Pale Rider will melt you to half HP. A good Exia will absolutely crush you as you use this. And, you know, that's not the problem. Problem is Mahiru needs more ammo in the clip, and somehow, you know, that it's just have a really spammy game sometimes. I'm sorry. 2 more bullets in the clip, that would be helpful. And I don't know how to fix Mahiru. He's broken, but not in a good way. The Rendo Grenade Rush change, useless. What do you... It's an awful ultimate. Anybody who uses this ultimate is a sitting duck, because it stops you from using your flip kick, your movement. It stops you from using your stun, which, I mean, whoop-de-doo. But as soon as you pop this, you don't have good direct damage. You have to then hit a nade, which is not an easy shot, especially against anybody who knows how to use WASD. So this ultimate is just bad. The only time it really works is when everybody is having a family greeting in a hallway. Outside of that, it's just awful. So this is not the problem with Mahiru. Thanks for making him a bit better, I guess. But he's still bad, so you tried. Really salty about that one. Just like, Mahiru's bad, and that's not the problem. Zakuto Melee. There could be a whole video on this. Zakuto Melee is broken. That's just how it is. The fact that he can essentially move around while using his, like, stand still is awful. Well, he's, like, that's the problem. And Large Heat Hawk Slash, thanks for making a melee character slightly less ranged. Awesome. Like, come on. It's in his name, and he's, like, still has pretty decent range. And they mention that in the highest tiers of ranked games, this unit does not dominate others in terms of damage output. You're right. Pale Rider is more of a damage hose in general than Zaku 2 melee. But the biggest problem is Pale Rider's ultimate isn't literally called Spin to Win. My team, we all call Zaku 2 melee's ultimate Spin to Win. Because that's what it does. If I'm fighting for a control point and their enemy Zaku 2 melee has his ultimate and isn't currently, I don't know, getting crushed by a house, they're gonna win that fight. If they have any follow-up or any, like, team coordination, that ultimate, as soon as he pops it, we now all have to reposition, and then his team can just pick us off as we reposition. That's it. His ultimate is too strong. As soon as you pop it, let alone if you have rage. If you have rage and you pop it, it's over. If you don't have rage and you pop it, it's still a super strong ultimate. You spin way too fast. You're moving at Mach 7 as you Beyblade around the place. And, trying to hit a stun out of the guy is super hard. You spin fast, it lasts way too long, it does a ton of damage, and if it doesn't do a ton of damage, it throws you around like a ragdoll. That's the problem with the ultimate. As well as Zaku 2 melee, you can't kill him without making him more powerful, which sort of okay, he has to build rage somehow. But the fact that he punishes you for trying to kill him and it's a passive punish. Like, it's come on, guys. This is one way to address it, but really his biggest issue is his ultimate is a Spin to Win. His rage gives him 400 extra armor, I think. Let alone if you have a Dom who then puts armor on him. You now have way too much HP. You can tank a lot. You can also, like, hop around while you're in your, like, rage stance form. Like, thanks for addressing some of the issues, but really, that's not a lot. Unicorn Gundam, this is the great change to leave at the end, so everyone who's, like, really tilted is just like, oh, and then Unicorn Gundam means 5 more bullets. Yay! Okay, so party restriction. They're getting rid of that. You can now play with your friends who are a new type if you're like bronze. Rock on. For casual matches, you can't get hard carried. I'm sorry. Leaver penalty. What this means is if you leave, it now counts as a loss in your MMR. So if I leave, I lose 100. And if I lose 100. So now it's just the same, whereas before I leave, I lose 75. I lose 100. So now they're just equaling that out. Future changes, cool. Also, they mentioned earlier on that they wanted to make this a monthly thing, which is awesome. There will probably be some times where they accidentally break the game, and then they will probably need to patch it in less than a month, but that happens with every single game. So that's my sort of short opinion without giving you guys like a university lecture on why Marasai is sometimes busted. Hopefully you guys did enjoy. Hopefully I was able to walk you through this list competently. At least I really hope I did it competently, because otherwise I might just be a delusional competitive player. Anyways, I'll see you next time. I'm Skate Duck. Subscribe, like, do all that stuff. I'll see you around.